All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a lot of issue with war. I have a lot of issue with the standards that are applied in warfare. When it comes to criminality, when it comes to justice, common law, we have certain standards that are set to ensure that the human rights of individuals is upheld within any just system. When it comes to things like self-defense, every individual has a right to respond with an appropriate amount of force, for instance, to thwart a violent action, or they can seek restitution for any violence or harm that has been inflicted upon them. These are things that are all good that I support. However, when it comes to warfare, governments have this weird justification where they're able to suspend all the basic standards of justice that we typically have, like the right to a trial or the right to have basic human rights. And they say things like, well, it's in the interests of national security, or it's an emergency use authorization act, right? Like, this is a common theme you see where governments suspend all the basic rights of individuals because they're trying to protect the nation, or trying to apply some kind of public health and safety measure, right? Which to any good moralist is an absolute atrocity to justice. When it comes to what's going on at the moment, but also what is going on throughout history, particularly recently in the United States per se, is that governments, namely the United States government, have been willing to go to war and drop bombs on people, typically black and brown people, countries full of black and brown people, but not always, in order to achieve some ends. And they disregard basic standards of human rights, human ethics. I mean, we saw this in the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan. I mean, these were amongst the most concentrated airstrikes in the history of the world, where we saw so much spent uranium. I mean, that was basically a nuclear war, but people don't really see it like that. The amount of radioactive material that was used in those warfare led to a manyfold increase in leukemia, cancer in certain countries like Iraq and so forth. And the aftermath was within the tens of thousands. Well over 1 million people died because of this war, right? Where they made the argument that they were doing this in order to find weapons of mass destruction, right? Or they were trying to get rid of a boogeyman like Osama bin Laden. And don't worry, smart bombs are very, very accurate. They were making this claim, right, at a time that the smart bombs they were using in order to seek out terrorists were 99.9% effective. But in hindsight, they only proved to be about 1% effective. And this is a common theme you see. They'll always speak about the certainty of the weapons they're using. I'm speaking about governments, particularly in any warfare. But in reality, these weapons of mass destruction that they are using in order to get rid of weapons of mass destruction are not that safe and effective. When it comes to what's going on in Palestine, it is unfortunately no different. We see a people essentially being genocided, and I don't say that lightly. I came across some statistics recently this is from the Euromed Human Rights Monitor, speaking about the amount of people that have been killed as of day 85 in Palestine, the Gaza Strip. We're speaking about 30,034 people that have been killed thus far. 11,833 have been children, 27,681 have been civilians, and so on and so forth. Check out the stats. And the argument that I hear is that, well, it's war. Now, just because the United States and other countries do this barbarous thing where they drop bombs on people in order to get bad people, because that is the standard, doesn't make it right. It's absolutely atrocious. It's horrible and should not be done. And I know people say Israel takes extra steps in order to ensure that it's only getting the bad guys by sending out leaflets and pamphlets before they do a bombing. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sending out leaflets and pamphlets before you bomb my country. But one of the things which I have found to be absolutely egregious is that it seems to be more of a recent occurrence. Israel has started targeting hospitals. And the argument, which I think is unequivocally, unassailably, definitively atrocious, and should not be the argument of any sane person, is that it's not their fault that they're targeting hospitals, it's Hamas's fault, because Hamas is hiding there. It has been an international standard that hospitals are always a safe zone, right? If you start making the argument that there are going to be some bad people that are shielding themselves in these hospitals, therefore it's okay to blow them up. You can justify anything. And this is the standard that has been set at the moment. So we're targeting places that are refuge for people that are wanting to heal others, and then saying that, well, we need to take out Hamas. And I find it very disconcerting when people say that, well, they're choosing the lesser of two evils, that Hamas is such a horrible, insane terrorist organization. I think you can make the argument for either side in these atrocities. The way that Israel is behaving now versus the way Hamas behaved more recently is behaving like terrorists. Absolutely. What they're doing is terrorizing a group of people. Of course, it's very subjective, but fundamentally you can use that word interchangeably for any kind of organization that is committing acts of violence. But the idea that it is somehow acceptable for Israel to target hospitals because of Hamas, and Hamas is responsible for them targeting these hospitals, I think should be an affront on any sane person's sense of justice and morality. But this is nonetheless what we are seeing in this conflict right now. And it's just something that I wanted to point the attention of any person that believes in the concept of human rights, because this is not about freedom for Palestine, this is not about freedom for Israel, this is about freedom, period. A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And if we allow these standards to be applied, to become a thing, like what is going on now with Israel targeting hospitals, well, it only is going to perpetuate more and more utter insanity, which is what we are seeing time and time again. And I don't want to exclude any countries from this kind of stuff. I mean, the United States is probably the most egregious terrorist in the world in terms of the violence that it's been perpetuating upon innocent people. And that's not cool either. But right now, I'm just highlighting the fact that what we are seeing going on in Palestine is essentially genocide. And I, for one, am not down with it. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Peace out, keep it real. Peace in the Middle East. Peace be upon your butt cheeks. Signing out, your boy.